Hey everybody, Keith Dotson here, and have you ever seen anything like this? We're looking at the John Rutledge House, built in 1763 in Charleston, South Carolina. It was the home to John Rutledge, the very first governor of South Carolina, and a signatory of the United States Constitution. It's one of the most incredible examples of the glorious, ornate ironwork to be found in the city of Charleston, where fancy wrought iron and cast iron can be seen everywhere. Over the next few minutes of this video, we'll be walking the streets of Charleston to see amazing ironwork on mansions, historic buildings, and graveyards. I photographed this house on my first trip to Charleston many years ago, and I'm proud to say there's a signed print in the collection of the Charleston Chamber of Commerce. But before we hit the streets, let's stop at the Charleston Museum, where they have some great displays of really old Charleston ironwork. These are cast iron parapet grills made sometime around 1830. They were taken from a building on St. Philip Street that's since been demolished. And this display combines three different unrelated things due to space, I suppose. One is a wrought iron transom grill from 1790. The others are an iron pavement grill from 1848 and a wrought iron gate from 1840. What's the difference between wrought iron and cast iron? Well, wrought iron was wrought, or hammered and worked by a blacksmith, whereas cast iron is made from molten metal that's poured into a mold and removed once it's cooled. Cast iron is usually more brittle, but can be made much more ornate with lots of fancy designs. I don't want to spend too much time in the museum displays. It's mainly for context, but I have to show you this insane Victorian bank teller window. Can you imagine coming in here to deposit your money and get your banknotes? This was in use until the 1950s, believe it or not. It must have seemed creepy and old-fashioned to people getting accustomed to mid-century modern aesthetics back in those days. There was a book about the history of money that came out over the summer. The author said that back in the 1800s, there was no such thing as paper money, so people had to carry coins or gold to the bank to deposit. They received a banknote as a receipt, with each bank having their own individual style of notes. You could then go to somewhere like a market or a merchant and trade the banknote for produce or goods. But since faraway banks weren't familiar and therefore were riskier to local merchants, they would often haggle or dicker over the value of the trade, maybe accepting only 90 cents on a dollar banknote. Anyways, that's the basis for our paper money system, which I thought was kind of interesting. Now let's get back into the streets. Here we're looking at another one of my Charleston favorites. This is the old Farmers and Exchange Bank on East Bay Street. Built in 1853 to 1854, it's what they call Moorish style. I love its two-tone facade and unique mix of shapes, and of course the ironwork. When I shot this several years ago, it was still in use, and now it's chained up, which is distressing. It was almost demolished in the 1970s, so I hope the Charleston historical folks are keeping an eye on it. Here's a picture of it from the National Register of Historic Places taken in 1958, and notice there was no wall on the left then. And how about that fabulous fantail in the parking lot? They say this design may have been based on images found in the pages of Washington Irving's popular book at the time, The Alhambra. All Victorian graveyards had fancy ironwork, gates and fences, of course, and Charleston cemeteries are no exception, except these are much older than Victorian times, some going back 300 years. By the way, if you like creeping around old cemeteries, I have a newish YouTube channel called Walking Old Graveyards, where I make simple video records of old graveyards. No commentary, just walking around making video, sometimes driving through. I'll put a link in the description if that appeals to you. And here we see the grave of John Rutledge. Remember the Rutledge house at the outset of the video? There he lies. He died in 1800. Now we're in a very old churchyard cemetery on a distal island. Earliest graves, circa 1790s. That old tomb we just got a look at has many ghost stories attached to it. Google the name Julia Laguerre to get some of those. Thanks for watching, everybody. Be sure to visit my website, keithdotson.com.